All right. So this presentation is really a quick overview of what the mentoring program is, and it will serve to kind of set the tone for the remainder of the meetings that we hold and the events that we have. So the goal of the GPA Mentor Program is to successfully build teams of emerging professionals, mid-career planners, and mentors for guidance and support, while offering mentors the opportunity to strengthen ties with future leaders of the planning profession and APA. So, one nice thing that I love about this stated goal is that the mentorship really goes both ways, and all three ways, actually, from emerging planners, mid-career professionals, and the mentors. I think everybody really gets something out of this program. Today, I'm going to give you this overview. Like I said, we're going to go through some introductions. Then we'll have a discussion with the senior mentor panel, and then we'll talk about what the next steps are for the program. So the GPA Mentor Program was really, like I said, the brainchild, I think, of Whitney, and was started to help enrich GPA services, also as a response to wanting to make sure that in Georgia, we are doing our best work to retain planners in the profession, especially emerging professionals. Also to contribute to professional development, offer career advice, and provide networking. This particular year of the mentoring program, we're going to put on 6 monthly events. You committed when you applied to attending 4 or more. And what we hope will come out of this is that you'll build some long-lasting relationships with the people in your mentoring group, as well as the other professionals who are participating in the program. This is really one way that we can do leadership development within our industry, and that GPA is sponsoring. So the program expectations, again, we ask that you attend at least 4 of the monthly events, including the CPI review, which will happen in February. And I'll speak a little more about that in just a minute. We hope that everybody will really utilize their senior planner, their mentor, as well as their peers. One of the first pieces of homework that we'll give you is to connect with everybody on this call today on LinkedIn, and make sure that you really are creating these connections that will be lasting, because as we go through this program, you'll get to know each other better. And I think that this is a great way to build your network for the long term. We hope that you'll stay in regular contact with your mentoring group. We also are, Whitney always liked to say, and I love this, within the circle of trust here. So, what happens in the mentoring program stays here. We hope that we'll have honest and open communication with each other, and that what, we all say within this program really is kept to ourselves and as confidential, so that people can feel that willingness to be open. We're hoping that you'll also provide feedback to our committee, our awesome committee of volunteers. So we'd love to hear from you at the end of this program. And I will say that I think every single year that we've been doing this program, it has morphed slightly in what we offer and the way that we respond to the feedback that we get. So we really do take it into account and want to hear from you. That could be throughout the program. Feel free to drop me an email at any time. And then we'll also do a more formal survey at the very end of the program. And then we also ask that you complete the self-assessments, and if there are any reading assignments that match up with the topics that we'll be approaching over the next 6 months. So speaking of that next 6 months, here is our schedule, and I'm going to walk through this quickly just so everyone's on the same page. I will note that there are a couple of this is the only Zoom meeting. Sorry, this is the only Zoom meeting that you have on your calendar so far. The one for February should go out right after this meeting. We're still making sure that that's the exact right date in March, so that one will be coming out soon, and then the remainder will follow. So you can keep your eye open for all of these to show up on your calendar shortly. So today we're of course doing the intro to the program and the senior mentor panel, so you can get to know your senior mentors a little better. On Friday, February 18th in the morning from 8 to 10, Suzanne Kirk is going to present the CPI 260 results. Again, I'll talk about that in just a little bit, but this is something that we've done every year, I think with great success, and we've gotten really good feedback about how much people enjoy doing the CPI 260. On Tuesday, March 15th, Allison Duncan has put together a really exciting panel discussion with I believe 5 different planners who we're calling it a career in the planning trenches. So planners who have really been in the public sector and doing planning in the trenches for the course of their career. I'd like to plan a patio happy hour in March. One thing I will note that's exciting about this year is that we have planners spread out throughout the state. So hooray for silver linings to this pandemic that we're all still dealing with, because it allows us to really connect with people throughout the state. Boo, because then we can't really get together, all of us in person very often. However, we're looking into ways to maybe create happy hours in different locations throughout the state. So stay tuned for information on that. And if anyone wants to volunteer to help source a place, please let me know, because I will probably not find the best place if you leave it up to me. So I'd love to have your input on that. On Friday, April 15th, I'm excited that Regan is putting together a panel discussion with CID leadership from a couple of different CIDs, which will be really exciting. And then we'll be doing a vote to, I'll send out a quick survey to ask about an afternoon field trip to some of those two CIDs, and just would ask that you respond if that's something you'd be interested in. And if you're not from the Atlanta metro area, if that's something that you would want to make the drive for, or if we should skip that. So stay tuned for that. And then in May, we got some feedback from the survey that you all did, through the application process, that you'd like to hear about public speaking and professional development as a planner. So we're looking for a speaker for that meeting. We always in the spring kind of glom on to the emerging planners happy hour. So hopefully we'll be able to do that again and do that in person, and stay tuned for details on that. And then in June, we're setting up a panel discussion with some planners from some small agencies, so that you can really hear from those planners on what it's like to be at a small municipality or smaller agency doing planning work, and what they think has been successful for them in their careers. And then we're hoping for a patio happy hour for graduation. So all of those things, again, look for them to come onto your calendar shortly, and stay tuned. So maybe I'll pause there and see if anyone has any questions. If you do, just hop off mute and let me know.
Caroline, quick question about that April 15th date. We had talked about maybe shifting that because of Good Friday. And some
Oh,
folks might
right.
have that off. Yeah.
That's right. I think we did shift
Yeah.
that. I'm sorry. That's a holdover from my original note. So that's right. I think we turned that to the week before. Is that right, Regan?
I thought it was the week after, the
The week
22nd.
after? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you for that.
No worries.
Just so you know, the 22nd is the day of the spring conference mobile sessions, or at least the day they're encouraging spring conference mobile sessions,
Uh-huh.
which doesn't mean you can't overlap, but just as you're thinking about it.
Thanks,
Okay.
Whitney.
Sorry.
Well, Regan, maybe you and I can put
We'll
our heads
figure out a day.
together on what would work for the panelists.
Yeah.
And we'll get back to everybody with a final date on that.
Yeah.
It'll be around mid-April. How's that?
Yeah, and this is Allison. I just want to chime in and say that March 15th, I'm going to try to hold it to that date. It may move to that Friday. So if y'all could just tentatively put a hold on March 15th or March 18th, only because a couple of our panelists had said, you know, well, maybe I can be there, but we have a commission meeting that day and you all know how that goes, right? So if it runs long, I would hate for them to have to miss our panel session. But I feel like it's just such a quintessential part of working, you know, in local government, you know, to kind of just be beholden to the length that your elected officials feel like talking that morning. So, so I'm going to just confirm with all of our panelists whether they want to move it to Friday so we know they can all participate. But otherwise, it's going to be that Tuesday or that Friday. I think, yeah, that's going to be the 15th or the 18th. So if y'all could just pencil in both of those dates for right now, and I'm going to try to get that confirmed early next week. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Allison. I appreciate that clarification. So as you all can see, it's all a little bit in flux as we work to really, you know, make sure that we have the best panelists we can get and figure things out. So that's why you haven't seen all of these on your radar yet. But for the next meeting, I would like to talk about the CPI 260. This is a leadership assessment. And as I mentioned before, Suzanne will be joining us to do this presentation and go over what the assessment is, what the results mean, and then we'll break up into our mentoring groups to have some small group discussions. Suzanne will be sending you an email, I believe this afternoon. I told her that we would be meeting this morning and she said, great, I'll follow up with them on Friday afternoon. And it's basically an assessment that you walk through. She'll give you some instructions about, you know, she always says, take your shoes off and, you know, really get into it. Respond as your most true and open self. Each of the results will come to you individually, so you'll get your own results back. As she does the facilitated review of the results, you'll have the opportunity to chime in if you feel comfortable doing that, or just to listen if you do not. And then same thing in your small group discussions. If there's something you particularly want to share about, that's great. And if there's something that you want to keep to yourself, that's fine too. The reason that you haven't seen the February meeting invite yet is that the Zoom invite will come from Suzanne because she'll be the one leading that discussion. And so I wanted to let you all know to look for an email and a Zoom invite from Suzanne Kirk so that you would know that she was the one sending it before it came into your email inbox. So what is the CPI 260? So it is the California Psychological Inventory, and that, you know, that word psychological makes everyone go what, but that's why we shorten it to the CPI 260. But so it is a leadership analysis. We like to say it is not the Myers-Briggs, but instead it measures these 18 different leadership competencies: how you deal with others, self-management, motivation, personal characteristics, and work-related measures. And it's validated against senior managers' results. So kind of how others would respond, and your response is validated against those. It's really insightful. I think for me, when I took it, it gives you a really good lens into where your strengths are and then where some areas for growth may be. and to me, it was spot on. So I hope that you all will take it with an open mind and look forward to Suzanne's discussion about it. So a couple of other housekeeping items. One question, do I have a mentor now? Not yet. We decided to do things just slightly differently this year, and based on your application, we understand, what each of you are looking for, what each of your interests are in the planning field. And then I'm going to send out a couple of questions to everybody this afternoon, and use those to really form the groups. So, if there's something that you hear one of the senior mentors talk about this afternoon that you're like, oh, that's really interesting to me, I really identify with their focus area or something like that, please let me know when you respond to my email. And then I will work to email the groups out to everybody next week, and the senior mentors will go from there and get things started. I also want to note that if you have not gotten to pay your $75 program fee yet, please do so through the mentoring website. This covers your CPI 260 assessment fee. The rest is really paid for by GPA. So we hope that you will take a moment to pay that if you haven't gotten a chance to. Okay, so now I'm going to stop sharing. Well, actually, I'll leave this up while we all go through. I'm just going to go over here into my list and try to go down the list. But I'd like everybody just to come off mute one at a time and talk about where you work, what it is that you do, what you hope to contribute or get out of the mentoring group, and then something fun that you do outside of work. And I think I'd like to start actually with our mentoring committee, just so you can get to know us for a moment. This committee is really a resource to all of you. So if if you have something that you don't want to talk about with your mentoring group, but you would like to have a conversation about the mentoring committee or something else, please reach out to any one of us. We're here for you. So I'll quickly go first, and then I'll call on Regan, Allison, and Whitney. So where do you work? I work at Blue Cypress Consulting. I started this company about 8 years ago. And what do I do? Well, my training is as a community planner. However, most of the time these days, I pretend to be a small business owner and run a business. So I do a lot of engagement and outreach. And I also grew up doing GIS, so I try to stay contemporary with that. Out of this mentoring program year, I'm a little nervous, if I can be honest with you, because it's my first time leading it and I have big shoes to fill. So I really hope that we can set you all up for a great year of mentoring, and that you enjoy the program and get something out of it. And then what do I do outside of work? Well, we just got a dog in December. So right now, most of my time outside of work is spent taking him on walks, which is lovely. And then also trying to convince my kids that they are on doggy pickup duty. So we'll see how that plays out. All right, so maybe I'll call on Regan next.
All right. Hey, everyone. For those of you I don't know, I'm Regan Hammond. I am with VHB, Vanessa Hangen Breslin. We're located in Midtown, our office, Midtown Atlanta. At VHB, I'm the Atlanta office's Transportation Systems Director. And transportation systems in the VHB world encompasses all transportation planning, so multimodal transportation planning, as well as our traffic group is with me as well, and mainly focused on travel demand modeling, traffic analysis, forecasting, safety analysis, that kind of stuff. That is definitely leans more plangineering. So that's what I do. I've been in the industry now almost actually 20 years now this year. So let's see, what do I hope to contribute? Really, I am responsible for one of our month sessions. So I want to put together a great program that connects this group to our community improvement districts here in the metropolitan Atlanta region, who often take on a lot of planning and project delivery on for the areas that they have oversight on when it comes to building great places to work, live, and play. So that's one thing I hope to contribute. But I also want to just be a resource to particularly the younger folks who are participating. I love mentoring and just talking with people. And then selfishly, I just like meeting people because you never know who you need to hire in the future. So those are the things I'd like to get out of this. Outside of work, I'm a big tennis player. I play in the Alta League and a couple other tennis leagues here in Atlanta, big golfer. And pre-pandemic, I loved going to music shows, particularly hip hop shows, but I've canceled that out of my life for the time being until I feel safe going to those kinds of events. But that's a little bit about me.
Thanks, Regan. Man, I miss live music too, for sure. Allison Duncan?
Okay. Hey, y'all. My name's Allison Duncan. I currently work for Douglas County in their Development Services Department. So I'm the county planner for Douglas County. I made a decision a few years ago to kind of get back into local government. I had started my career in local government back in the day. Unlike Regan, I'm not going to tell you how long I've been doing this because it has been a minute. But yeah, I just decided I was really excited to get back into local government. And, I serve on the Georgia Planning Association board as their planning official development officer, affectionately referred to as PODO. And thanks to the pandemic, I honestly just haven't been doing a lot of training of planning officials, right? Because it's just hard to get folks together and to do big events. And so I was very curious about the work of the mentorship committee. And so decided I would just see if I could lend value to the committee. Like Regan, I am also coordinating a session in March, and I'm really excited to get y'all together with some of the coolest people I know in planning, right? I mean, honestly, there's so many of them, but we just decided to focus on those folks who have made a career out of working in local government. I know over the course of your career, you have a lot of things to consider, private sector, public sector, nonprofit, lots of cool opportunities. And so I just want you to hear from some of the folks that really inspired me, to kind of stay in local government and kind of keep on keeping on the front lines here. So when I'm not at work, I have an enormous garden, right? I live in Chattahoochee Hills. So if y'all ever find yourself in Chattahoochee Hills, which is one of those beautiful places in Metro Atlanta, stop by and have a sit in the garden. Right now we are working on all the winter chores, which is admittedly not the pretty part of the work, but we'll be really glad, come spring, when everything is coming out to bloom. So if that's not planning for you, I don't know what is, but thanks for the opportunity to hang out with you all today, and I look forward to working with you.
Thanks, Allison. So I have to know, do you mostly do, is it flowers or vegetables or both?
Everything.
Everything.
Yes, I currently have onions and radishes, and I'm not sure what else coming up in our under grow lights. We have lettuces, kale, things like that, coming up under fleece out in the garden. And right now we're kind of getting everything, ready. Daffodils are coming up. I've had some very early daffodils this year. So
well, the weather keeps making us think it's spring and then it goes back to winter. So
yeah. So honestly, I'd love to talk gardening as much as I enjoy talking planning. So seriously, y'all come for a visit in Chat Hills, and it would be awesome to catch up with anybody, and look forward to working with you here this year.
Thank you. Whitney.
Hi, good morning. I think it's still morning. Oh, just noon. Well, I'm Whitney Shepard. I'm the current president of Georgia Planning Association. I'm a transportation engineer by training, but obviously do a lot of work in multimodal transportation and in public policy. I worked, like most of you, I worked in Metro Atlanta until 2007 when I moved to Savannah. I've been to Savannah since then, and we love living here. I founded a company in late 2012 called Transport Studio to provide engineering and planning services with Dr. Michael Meyer, who a lot of you know from Georgia Tech. And I have a partner here in Savannah named Janine Roach, who's a GIS wizard. One of the reasons I felt so strongly about forming a mentoring program at GPA is that, especially when I left Atlanta and did more work with smaller regional public agencies and local governments, I found that many planners were the only person doing planning in their whole jurisdiction, and that a lot of them didn't have degrees in planning and felt pretty unsupported. I saw the opportunity to provide more networking across the state and more support, in particular for younger planners, but also folks in mid-career, to encourage them to be proactive, to be the voice of public policy expertise, and to provide decision makers with support, and to hang in there when they got involved in local politics, maybe more than they wanted to. So that was one of the reasons. But I also really found that leadership training that I received through the Leadership Southeast Georgia program could be very applicable to Georgia Planning Association members. And so that's where some of the leadership development content that we use came from, and just trying to empower our members to be more involved and to promote planning more forcefully in the work that they're doing. So outside of work, I do a lot of work with local nonprofits, particularly that are engaged in education and empowering our underserved communities of color and low income. And that includes bringing them into planning and trying to elevate their voices in the work that I do, but also trying to learn more about what the barriers are to healthy communities and safe communities and quality of life across Southeast Georgia. I also own a restaurant with my husband, so I'm really involved in gardening and in the local food system and trying to promote all of the farmers that we work with. So do a lot outside of work, but planning tends to get involved around the edges in a lot of my extracurricular activities. So I'm very excited that this is continuing, and I'm tremendously grateful to Caroline and the rest of the committee for keeping the mentoring program going. I think every year, as Caroline mentioned, it changes. It really is adaptable and flexible to what you all need and want. And I think that's one of the most powerful things about it. And kind of along those lines, I would say you're going to get out of it what you put into it. So show up and be engaged and ask lots of questions and reach out to all of us to get to know everyone in the program. And I think then you'll find that it's really worth your time, and hopefully that you'll form relationships that will be with you for the rest of your career.
Thanks, Whitney. Planning does get its tendrils everywhere that you go, huh? So I think that I will go ahead and just ask you all one at a time to continue these introductions. You've seen how it looks. I'm going to save the senior mentors for last. So Liz, Elizabeth, and Corey, you can, just sit back and listen for a minute. So maybe I'll start with just Ashley, because you're at the top of my screen.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Rich, and I work at Chamberlain Area Transit in Savannah, Georgia. I work as an ambulance currently in the maintenance department. I really hope to work with more planners with GPA. Being in Savannah is so far away from Atlanta. It seems like all the planning is in Atlanta sometimes. And outside of work, I try to get out in our community. We actually live over in Thunderbolt, which is a little small fishing village that's completely surrounded by Savannah and County. So in Thunderbolt, we have several just about it for me. And,
Thank you, Ashley. Good. Melissa?
Oh, hi. Can you all hear me? 'Cause I wasn't, okay. My name is Melissa Leto, and I work for the Metropolitan Planning Commission in Savannah, Georgia. I am an urban planner for the Development Services Division, and I also work on historic preservation projects and also work with advanced planning on projects as well. I recently, I guess I'm about 5 months into this position, and I relocated from Key West, Florida, where I was a planner at the city of Key West. So this has been, I used to live here in Savannah, so I'm very familiar with the area, but I have an apartment in Key West and an apartment here now. I live in Riverworks, which is in the Eastern Wharf, new development off of the river. Which I really enjoy. And I'm hoping to get some more connections and leadership skills through this mentoring program, and then possibly help out other younger planners. And what I do outside of work, I am a big triathlete type of person. So swim, bike, and run. So I like to travel places to do those things. And then I just enjoy the city and doing activities in the area. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we all want to know, do you Airbnb out your apartment in Key West?
No, not yet. Yeah. My husband works in Key West, so we do dual.
Got it. Bonnie.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Lapwood. I work at the Atlanta Regional Commission. It's a new position for me. I just started last month. I'm a senior planner in the community development group, so I provide technical assistance to local governments. Before that, I was in local government planning. I worked at City of Doraville in the Northeast Atlanta metropolitan area. And before that, I was in grad school at Georgia Tech in the MCRP program. I am hoping to meet people, build some relationships with planners that I don't directly work with or that I went to school with. And outside of work, I have a pit bull named Jekyll, and we hang out and go on walks. That's it for me. Thanks,
Bonnie. So we do have some repeat flyers, and one of them is Brittany. We're so glad to see you again, Brittany. Do you want to give us your introduction?
Yeah. Hey, I am a repeat flyer. I was actually in the group last year. Decided to come back because I had a great experience. My name is Brittany Griffin. As of January 1st, I am now the senior planner for the monthly planning department. So I've made it into management finally after 6 years in this specific seat. I specialize in land use planning, and now that our Northwest Georgia Regional Commission no longer has a historic preservation specialist, I'm also basically the regional historic preservation contact for the state. So second time coming through with this. The first time was great because I met a lot of people. I ended up on the EDI committee, which I'm currently on, and I met my mentor there from last year, Christina Pastore, and now I'm under her subcommittee for the PDO. So this is a really great experience if you want to get involved with GPA on the committee level, because that's definitely how I got my foot in the door. Looking to meet people once again. Outside of work, I decided to go back to school because I like punishment. So I'm completing a MERP at Florida along with a graduate certificate in GIS. I have 2 dogs because we are very much pet parents in my house. And I liked the gardening comment that was made earlier, but I think it was Ashley, because I don't know if you can tell behind me, I'm big into plants, but I can't garden outside to save my life. But in my office here, I think I've got a little over 52 exotic or tropical plants. So I'm an indoor gardener, but outside, I can't do anything outside. So they all die. But inside, I can do it.
Thanks, Brittany. And yes, I will say that if you want to get involved in GPA, raise your hand and we'll find a place for you on a committee because, you know, there's always more that needs to be done. So we appreciate you jumping in and doing that, Brittany. Rebecca.
Hey, everyone. Good afternoon. So I am kind of a mid-level planner at CPL. I do anything from on-call planning to master planning for communities around Metro Atlanta. So, you know, especially with, I think, the current job market that we've got, found a lot of work in helping different planning departments with vacancies that they've got, and really going in and helping refining processes and things. That's something that really excites me, to go in and help put process in where none exists or there are efficiencies to be had. So I think out of this, I did the mentorship program a number of years ago. And so I'm at a little bit different point in my career now. So I think I've grown to appreciate networking. This is a very collaborative profession. And so it's just nice to have people who you can continue to connect with to do that collaboration, to you know, work with, to, like Regan said, you know, potential hires. And then I'm also on the GPA board as the liaison for the Emerging Planners of Georgia. I'm the chair of that group. And so I'll also work with Caroline to you know, market to you guys some of the programming that we're doing there. We're trying to do a lot more educational programming as well as the happy hours that Caroline mentioned. And so we'll put out a series of 3 to 4 signature events this year, and some of them being remote that would be really easy for you all to attend. And we would also look for, we've got a board that puts on all of that programming, but we always like to have a committee of folks ready to step in as board members roll off. And my term will end there at the end of this year. So we'll be looking to fill some positions that way. And I'm also on the EDO, the PDO committee with Brittany. Outside of work, I have a 4-year-old daughter who is my world. We do a lot of things together. I'm a bit of a tea connoisseur, so we have a lot of tea parties. I like mostly just kind of very, very plain teas, mostly green tea, maybe with a little bit of mint in it if I'm feeling crazy. But other than that, plain, you know, enjoy working out. I typically do CrossFit, but have recently picked up the water rower and have started to enjoy that, where I never thought I would, as well as reading. I never used to be kind of an avid reader, and got kind of, my husband got me some habit books last year, and it just finally started enjoying, you know, reading for pleasure. So that's been something recently that I've picked up as well. So, yeah.
Thanks, Rebecca. Yes, and thank you for all of the programming that you all are doing with emerging planners. We particularly appreciate the ones that are AICP credits. Good stuff.
Yeah, we're going to try and do, you know, those are going to be the signature events. Yeah,
love it.
Those are the most useful, if you will.
Yeah. Allison.
Hey everyone, I'm Allison Senyard. I'm associate at TSW. I've been there now for about 5.5 years. I've been in the planning world now, I think going on about 9. So I guess it's safe to say I'm definitely a mid-career professional at this point. I actually did the mentorship program crap, I don't remember what year, it was like 18 or 19, it was definitely before the pandemic. But I had a great experience, decided to come back. And I think my goals there are largely the same, meet new people, build my network, strengthen relationships that I already have, and just continue to learn from all these really smart and talented people. So at TSW, most of my work, I actually manage a lot of our comprehensive plan projects and our LCI downtown projects, but I do provide a lot of support on just a lot of different projects, anything that relates to GIS. They kind of made this, I've been kind of appointed the virtual engagement guru. I don't know why, but that's been providing a lot of support on that front with a lot of projects. It's never a dull day there. They keep me pretty busy, but yeah, we definitely have fun there. So outside of work, right now, my husband and I are renovating our 1930s home, which I'm sitting in right now. There's a lot of work to be done on it. So when we're not renovating that, we're usually experimenting in our kitchen when it's not in shambles like it is right now. So hopefully I'll get that back up and running in a few weeks and I can actually cook again. But we're not at home. We like to take our dogs out for hikes. We like to explore small towns, especially if there's a brewery there. We're big brewery people. And during the pandemic, I took up powerlifting. I used to be a runner, but then I broke my foot at the beginning and was told, yeah, I needed to pretty much quit running permanently. So I was getting married and I needed a way to stay in shape. So I took that up and I have kept up with it ever since. So that's been a pretty big hobby of mine. And what else? And oh yeah, as soon as we get our house, the inside of our house more or less livable again, our next project is actually a vegetable garden in the backyard. We have about a half acre of land, and the home we used to live in had a garden. So hoping to maybe talk to some of you guys about gardening. Love to get some tips and tricks. But yeah, that's me, and I can't wait to get to know all of you guys.
Thank you, Allison. Welcome back. Sounds like Allison Duncan, you have some gardening mentoring to do. So, all right, Shubhangi.
Hey, can you hear me, guys? Okay, I'm Shubhangi. You can call me Shubha if you want. I'm a senior planner at City of Milton, in a city in North Fulton County. And my core functions are plan reviews and building design reviews and land development reviews. But I also do partly, since we are a small group, we do long range planning. I put my nose into all kinds of planning activities, trails planning, and we do have a design review board, board of zoning appeals, and I hardly get time out of all those meetings. But out of my work, I usually take time to spend time with my family. I have 2 daughters and a dog. At this mentorship, and this is my first time ever doing this. I've been senior planner here for 3 years. Before that, I was a planner for a school district. We did build a lot of schools, so I have a little architecture background to it. My training is in architecture and planning, which is a good thing, I felt, but I still wanted to know what planning looks like for other planners. So that's why I wanted to join this mentoring group and grow as a planner and learn from other different regions planners. So that's what my goal is, to be here. And we have a form-based code in our city, and if I can, I would like to share my experience about how to enforce the design guidelines and stuff like that. So that's what I hope to contribute to this group. That's it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Nate.
Hey everyone, Nate Hosell. I'm a project manager planner at the City of Atlanta. Main tasks are managing the comprehensive development planning process, some small area neighborhood planning processes. I came to Atlanta from Cleveland, Ohio in 2009, started my PhD work, Georgia Tech. I'm all but dissertation, probably will never go back and finish. So I can talk about the PhD program if any one of you want more torture. I can talk to you about the pros and cons of going back to get your PhD in planning. Before that, I was an economic development practitioner, mostly doing brownfield redevelopment, managing multi-million-dollar cleanups in Cleveland, Ohio. As you can imagine, lots of industrial waste in the properties there. So I manage an industrial land bank. So I do have a lot of interest in vacant properties, neighborhood revitalization. But the more and more I've been working here at the city now for 3 or 4 years, doing a lot of consulting work as a PhD student for the city for 8 years when I was at Georgia Tech. But getting more and more into planning, doing comprehensive planning, just want to kind of meet other planners, see what you all do, learn from different perspectives, from different jurisdictions. Very kind of insulary here in the city of Atlanta, given Georgia and the urban environment. So kind of want to learn from other people. Outside of work, do a lot of running, got into ultra trail running as therapy for my PhD. So I've been doing that for several years now. Girlfriend and I do a lot of trail running up in North Georgia. So we have a cabin for about 5 years now up in North Georgia. So if we're not here, I'm not running every street in Atlanta, I'm running every trail up in the mountains. And we combine that travel with our traveling. So we'll go to France or run, and we're looking at Mexico maybe this year to run. So that's a running, and yeah, that's about it. I live in Midtown.
Great. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you. Andrew, welcome back.
Hey, everybody. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Good. I was having some mic issues earlier, so that's why I was running late and going on and off. But anyways, yeah, it's good to be back. I'm Andrew Smith, and I am a transportation planner with Gresham Smith. Gresham Smith has 3 Atlanta area offices in Midtown, Alpharetta, and Swanee. I'm primarily based out of Alpharetta, though I'll occasionally hop on MARTA from my condo in Sandy Springs and work in Midtown from time to time. Been with Gresham for about 3 years and have been in the planning world for about 5 years. I am a 2015 graduate at the University of Georgia and a 2019 graduate of Georgia Tech with the Master of City Regional Planning Program. Some of the areas that I'm really interested in are active transportation planning, and then transportation and climate resiliency. But at Gresham, I kind of wear a lot of different hats, working on different things, access management studies, freight cluster plans, and corridor studies, among other things. Really just kind of decided to come back this year just to kind of continue strengthening some of the relationships that I've made last year as part of the mentor program, and to continue becoming more involved with GPA and to exchange ideas with my fellow planners around the Atlanta area and throughout Georgia. And outside of work, I do a lot of hiking. I lead hiking groups through Canopy Social during a lot of the weekends, and trying to get more into biking again when it warms up more, and I get a little bit more motivated to tune my bikes up. But yeah, really just try to stay active and things of that nature.
That's great. Thanks, Andrew. Maybe you can tell us all your favorite hike.
Yep, I could go on and on about it. And I keep discovering more of them through all trails. It's just a never-ending process.
Great. All right. Is it Zara?
It is.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zara Gina, and I'm actually logged in from India. It is 10:54 p.m. here, so which is why my camera was off.
Well, thank you for joining us. Goodness.
Of course. I do planning and GIS at Croy Engineering. We're based up in Marietta, and my focus has been transportation planning, grant applications, GIS, more so anything and everything that they want me to do. I graduated from the City and Regional Planning program at Georgia Tech, and then I did the GIS program as well in 2019, and I've been at Croy for 5 years now. As an international student, I always thought that it was harder for us to, find that network and build those relationships, which is why this program is particularly important for me. Outside of work, I am actually involved in a volunteering group within the religious community. The organization is called Access, and I run the operations program there. So I have 11 centers, and we provide 24/7 access for anything that the community needs. So whether someone needs a job or rent assistance, or they're having domestic marriage issues, it can be just anything and everything, and we provide services for that. So that's what I do outside of work, and I really look forward to interacting with. I see a lot of familiar faces and some people that I've worked with before, so I really do look forward to interacting with everyone. Thank you.
That's great. Well, welcome. Glad you could make it all the way around the world. And then Tanya.
Hey, I'm not sure if you guys can see or hear me.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, well, it's nice to meet everyone. Thank you for going before me. You gave me time to think. I am a senior planner with Clark Patterson Lee, CPL. Have been working there for 2.5 years or so. Before that, I worked for the city of Woodstock. I tend to do master planning, zoning, sign code rewrites, on-call planning services, that sort of thing. What do I hope to contribute out of the mentoring group? I really just want to meet people. I think with COVID being what it was and currently is, there's a sense of isolation, and I'm really eager to reconnect to others, especially in our profession. We are a collaborative industry, and I am fascinated by the process and things of various communities around the metro, and I want to learn how you guys do what you do and what you like, and just what your passions are. So I'm excited to be here. What do I do outside of work? I love coffee, so I try to visit every coffee shop in my vicinity, and just to check out what they do and what they're good at. And I also love theater. So COVID has shut down a lot of theaters and performances in the metro. So I've been reading screenplays and kind of scratching that itch that way. But if you guys have a recommendation for any new Shakespeare performances that you might know of, feel free to send them my way. I'd love to check those out. That's it.
Thanks. What's your favorite coffee shop?
Right now, I'm really a fan of Perk on Hosea. So
okay. Good
there
to
you
know. Okay, and so now maybe I'll call on the senior mentors to introduce themselves, and we'll start with Elizabeth.
Can y'all hear me okay?
We got you.
All right. So my name is Elizabeth Back, and I am the planning director for the Southern Georgia Regional Commission. I've been here since 2018. Before that, I worked in Maryland for the city of Gaithersburg. I was a sustainability coordinator, and before that, environmental planner. Prior to working in Gaithersburg, I was in Hillsborough County, Florida, where I did quite a bit since about 2001. I worked, I think someone mentioned brownfields, historic preservation, site plan review. And then in Maryland, I worked in forest conservation planning, environmental planning, and then where I am now as being planning director, we work on comprehensive planning, more recently hazard mitigation, and then I work with the Solid Waste Authority here. I'm mostly interested in doing this just to give back to folks that are newer in planning, both beginning and middle, mid-career planners. And let's see, I'm currently one of the two AICP board members on the GPA, and I'm on the planning committee. I've just recently graduated from the Leadership Lounge program, and am now the selection committee chair for Leadership Lounge Youth. And let's see, in my free time, I used to do a lot on the water, like kayaking and swimming and that kind of thing. I'd like to get back into that. Definitely did more of that in Florida. I have 2 kids, 2 boys in high school. So my husband and I are really busy watching them play sports and take them to their sporting events. They both play or one of them plays football and they both play baseball. So real busy with that. Do some gardening, mostly herbs in the backyard. And then the house we bought has several fruit trees. So learning a bit about fruit tree gardening. And I've mostly lived in places that are much larger than Valdosta. That's not too difficult to do, but lived in the DC metro area. So that, and also Hillsborough County, which is the county that Tampa is located in. So I like the slower pace of life here and the lack of traffic congestion and air pollution. So, but I'm really looking forward to this. This is the first time I've done a mentoring type program, but I've done presentations to colleges before, that type of thing. And really hope that I can be supportive and encouraging to everyone and help you in any way. So if there's any questions.
Well, we'll pepper you with questions coming up
Okay.
in our panel.
We'll
so
save that for now then.
yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Sure.
We're really grateful that you volunteered to spend your time with us, and just appreciate you. So
Certainly, thank you.
Yeah, Corey? Corey, we are not hearing you.
Is that better?
We got you now.
Okay, sorry. I had to call in on my phone earlier. I'm Corey Hall. I'm the Director of Transportation and Environmental Programs at the Southern Georgia Regional Commission here in Valdosta. Elizabeth is just a few doors down along the hallway. Here, we are the Metropolitan Planning Organization for Valdosta. We also do rural transportation planning for our 18-county region, where we have our regional transportation sales tax and work on bicycle and pedestrian safety planning in our rural areas. We are also the operator of an 18-county transit system that was launched on July 1st of, I guess, last year now. And so that has been an adventure to get that up and running, going through just all the various things that you learn about that they never tell you about, starting a transit system, so, or starting any new program, I would suppose. We also do environmental planning in my department, primarily focusing on water quality improvements in our region. I am the former president and vice president of programs for GPA. So I applaud all of you who have taken on a volunteer role in, whether it's on the boards, whether it's serving on one of the committees. That is a great way to become involved in any organization, is to do that kind of volunteer work. And it really is very rewarding. You get to meet a lot of great people. As Reagan said, you find potentially great employees, but also great people to reach out to when you have a question. Outside of work, our kids keep us pretty busy. We've got a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old with sports practices, gymnastics practices, all of that. We get them to where they need to go, but then it's spending time with friends and family, and traveling are the things that we like to do.
That's great. Thank you, Corey. And thanks for coming back for more on this. Corey also participated last year as a mentor, and we really appreciate you being here again. And last but not least, Liz.
Thanks, Caroline. And I think we saved the oldest for last.
Oh.
But, you know, I'm going to wear it proudly here since this is a mentoring program and I'm a senior mentor. I've worked, I've been a planner for 35 years. I was just adding it up while we sat here. But I too am a graduate of Georgia Tech from a long time ago. I presently work at the Atlanta Regional Commission. So Bonnie, like, we haven't met because of our current virtual environment, but like, welcome to ARC. I know some of the other ARC alumni who are here on the call. We have Reagan and Allison. I had the privilege of working with both them. What I do right now, my title is the Manager of Strategic Planning and Programs, and I work in the Center for Strategic Relations and am doing an initiative for the Executive Director at the present moment. What do I hope to contribute to, get out of the mentoring group? I like other people have shared, just to echo, it's kind of just a desire for giving back and just being part of the planning community. When I listen to what everybody does outside of work, I'm like, I love planners because, you know, it's just like, you guys are kind of my people, you know, it's always felt that way, that planning is just a really good fit for me. And Atlanta has done wonderful things. I mean, I just feel really blessed, and I'd love to be able to give some of that back. And what they say about old planners is you either become like cynical or curmudgeonly, or like the best you're going to do is kind of be a veteran with battle scars. So like, you know, just to be able to share that makes it all better. So outside of work, I do a lot of the things like other people do. I love gardening. My COVID project was I've created the farm in the front yard, much to the chagrin, I'm sure, of my neighbors. But it makes me happy. And I love cooking with the vegetables I got. I ran out to get some chard and noticed the deer ate it. But anyway, so I like all things kind of home and garden. I have a dog and a cat. And I have two, I'm very active. I like hiking and being fit. And the big thing, which I'd love to share with you guys, is I sing with the Trey Clegg Singers. And we're kind of on this ascent right now where we're getting noticed. We somehow hung on through COVID, despite being you know, choral stuff is a community activity that anyway, we hung on, we did video singing, this, that, and the other. But on February 6th, coming up in 2 weeks, we are at the First Center at Georgia Tech. We're premiering the work of Doug Hooker, who wrote a symphony during the COVID timeframe. And it's the debut of the work. It's for Black History Month, and it's going to be an awesome concert. So if anybody's hungry for that sort of thing, I'd be happy to share the link to get tickets.
That's so cool. How in the world did you get involved in that?
Doug Hooker, I told him, oh, you know, I love to sing. And he said, hey.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, Liz, thank you very much for being here with us this year and volunteering your time as well. We truly appreciate you. I see that we have one more person who joined us, and James, I don't want to put you on the spot, but we're all doing introductions and you're the last one left. Would you be willing to jump in and tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, sure. That's totally fine. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes, welcome.
Thanks. Sorry I'm late. I had a doctor's thing I had to do. It's a long story, but
no worries.
So I work at Planning Communities. We are a small women-owned consulting firm. The firm's actually based in Raleigh, North Carolina, but we have people all around the country. Even though there's not very many of us, we manage to be scattered about. My work is transportation focused, specifically transit. In the past, I've done a lot of active transportation, but lately transit, you know, sometimes like Title VI equity analyses and things like that. In terms of what I want to get out of mentoring, so I think like a lot of planners that I've met, shortly prior to go, I graduated from planning school in 2018, and a few, 5 years before that had not even really heard of it as a field. So I've been, I graduated in 2018. I've been in my current position since then. So, I'm not completely new, but I still feel I'm still pretty early in my career, and trying to sort of crystallize some more long-term and mid-term goals and figure out how to achieve those. So that's really something that I'm looking to get out of mentoring. Outside of work, if I'm not experiencing the back pain that I had me come in here an hour late, I like to ride my bicycle. I like to walk too, just walk around different places. I play the bass guitar and sing and do karaoke when there's not a pandemic, and I make my own ice cream.
Excellent. Maybe you can bring some of that to one of our happy hours.
Would love to. Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope that this gives you a little more of an understanding of who's in this program with you. And it was really informative to me as I go through and start to think about forming these mentoring groups too, to hear, what you all honed in on as far as what you want to accomplish and your goals. So I appreciate you spending the time to do that. We will move forward. So just a couple of quick housekeeping items before we launch into the panel questions. First, please do fill out your CPI assessment that you'll get from Suzanne sometime this afternoon, I imagine. Before next time, she'll remind you a couple times if she doesn't see that come through from you. And then I will also send out a list of everybody who's participating in the program. And I'd love for you to spend some time going through your LinkedIn and connecting with all of us. And if you can do that by March, I think that would be really helpful for the program and as well as kind of building our networks. So, if anyone has any questions, please jump in at any time. You also can feel free to reach out to me via phone or email. Here's my contact information. You have seen probably too many emails from me already, so you should have that in your inbox. But my door is open to you should you need anything. And then, this is a reminder to me before we start our panel to take a picture. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and put this on gallery view and ask everyone to turn on their camera for one quick minute while I do a snip of all of us. And we'll share this on the GPA social media just as a welcome to the program. So thanks you all for being here. And 1, 2, 3.
You didn't tell us we were having our photos.
Uh-oh, it says it failed to open the file. So we got to do that one more time. I'm so sorry. All right, one more time. 1, 2, 3. Got it. All right, excellent. Let me save that. Very good. And now it's really time for a discussion with our senior mentor panel. I do have some canned questions that I shared with them already, so I'll get us started, but I would encourage all of you, if you have something that you particularly want to hear about, please do jump in. And, I do not want this to be just me asking questions, so feel free, and maybe I'll pause and see if anyone has anything burning that they'd like to bring up first. Okay, all right, well, then we will start. One of the things that, so I'll just say that all of these questions come from previous mentoring. We've been doing this now for 7 or 8 years. So we've asked for all of the different participants to give us questions that really were meaningful to them throughout the years. And so we're recycling some of these. And I just encourage you all to, I guess, Liz, Elizabeth, and Corey, just, answer as you see fit. And I'll try to call on each of you, but if one of you wants to jump in as well, please do. So, I think first I'd like to start with this one because I'd like to hear a story from each of you. So this is, can you share a story about a policy or plan that you advocated for? You can tell us about opposition that you faced, or if the outcome that you were hoping for was achieved. And I see Corey smiling, so maybe I'll call on him first.
Darn, I was trying to think, what am I going to talk about? I will say, one of probably the most memorable for me is, and I'm really trying to remember what year this was, because we did this twice, was our regional transportation sales tax that our region implemented in 2018. For those of you who are around, back in 2012, all the regions in Georgia took a vote. At that time, 3 regions passed it. The rest did not. And in 2018, our region decided to try again to see if our region would pass the regional sales tax. One of those things that we went through for that process was a big learning curve, well, a learning experience. I won't say learning curve, but a learning experience for me. And I can't remember if it was the first time we did it or the second time, but being out in public is something that planners often do. And we may be tasked with presenting, advocating for a plan or against something, whatever that might be. And that is our professional role. But one of the things that the public doesn't necessarily know is that that's what we're paid to do. Sometimes it's not what we personally believe in, but it is something we're out there doing on a daily basis. And I remember distinctly, I was at a civic club that wanted to have a presentation, kind of a point counterpoint with myself and the kind of the leader of the opposition for the sales tax. So we each got up, gave a 10-minute presentation, and then spent 20 minutes debating back and forth questions from the audience. So that's been one of my, I think, most memorable experiences, is being in a situation like that. As a part of that, that particular individual, they would send out almost daily emails on, and then social media, dragging not only my name through the mud, but just the whole process that we were going through. There were a lot of times things that they were presenting that were not factual in their information, but I think that goes a long way to say you can't, as a planner, when you're that public-facing individual, you a lot of times can't take things personally. You have to have your own integrity to know that what you know is right, and you can't let that bother you. So it was a good, memorable experience and a big learning experience for me.
That sounds painful. Like lots of good things to learn, but a little bit painful. Thanks for sharing. Elizabeth?
Sure. So I have an example, but it's not as crystal clear, maybe as Corey's, in that for my role, I feel like I'm continually doing this. So it's pretty much every single time we have a comprehensive plan come up, it's more advocating for the planning process than for a particular outcome. So we're in a pretty rural area. We have 18 counties, and each time we assist the local government with a comprehensive plan, we're working with, it could be 1 to 5 or 6 municipalities and a county to write that plan. And since it's every 5 years, frequently it's a whole new cast of characters with each 5-year update. So a lot of the process is to explain what the role of planning is and how the local governments can use this document, and what we're explaining to sometimes the elected officials even, I can say that because he said we're in a safe space here, but we're actually, telling them what they can and cannot do and why it's required to have engagement, even why it's required to share your plan with adjacent jurisdictions. So you have some elected officials who don't have, they were elected, but they may not have all of the planning information ahead of time that we might like them to have. So I feel like it's happening every time, pretty much. And then we do have newspapers locally, but having newspaper staff fully understand these planning processes and just getting everything right. So then explaining the information that maybe they didn't get right to folks that come with interest in. A lot of times when they show up, they aren't necessarily interested, and I'm sure you see this everywhere. They're not interested so much in the comp plan, or even when we have public hearings for hazard mitigation plans. It's some tiny little piece that may be related to it somehow, but they're coming there. So a lot of it is education, and because it's so infrequent and people move, we're updating our books all the time in terms of new clerks, new city managers, county managers, elected officials. And that's really important. Definitely in our region, I'm sure in every region in the state, are those, the UGA trainings that they do for newly elected officials. And then also for clerks, we really highlight the importance of attending those trainings, and also to doing some of the local trainings that we have. Like we have a SGRC 101 for newly elected officials coming up in February in our 2 offices. And that's a great time to just get people on the same page with what we offer, what we can provide, but also get them, willing to ask us questions about the processes. So I hope that answers it somewhat.
Yeah, no, I think building that understanding is something that we get to do throughout our careers as planners. So I think that's a great thing to highlight. So, Liz, is there anything you'd like to add to this one?
Well, you said, I love that you started with stories, Caroline, because I always have stories. And I'll be brief, but I had my own consulting business. I was the founder of Sycamore Consulting, and set it up in an old house in the city of Decatur, right near where I lived, and set about getting to know the city of Decatur officials. So I did sort of work, like build a relationship with them, partly because I was a hometown, the team, but also just by being active in professional associations. I was in like the ITE at the time for traffic engineers, and WTS, and other transportation things. And we, I think it was through ITE, we brought a guy to town to speak at a session. It was about roundabouts. He was from Australia. So at the time, this was like, whoa, roundabouts. It was a big deal. So I took advantage of him being there and being involved with the whole thing to take him over to Decatur and introduce him to the officials there. So that sort of started their journey. It was part of their journey in transportation planning, learning more about some things. And I kind of continued to interact back and forth about transportation things. As I was learning things, I got to know them. And Hugh Saxon was the guy's name, Public Works Director, and Lynn Menny, the Planning Director, and just would share the things. And then they started thinking about doing a community transportation plan in Decatur. So now I'm well positioned, right, to get the job. So, I wound up being involved with the city manager and just weren't talking about it, and just like, batting ideas around. And when the job came out, I then had the, it was like a privilege really looking back, but like I put together a team, we went for the job, and we did win. And so I had the opportunity to manage the community transportation plan for Decatur. And I think it's a good story because it says how sometimes as a planner, it's not so much about, let me tell you how to do something. It's kind of about being on a learning experience together. And And it was just, it's really cool to go to the city of Decatur and know that I'm part of why it's such a cool place. You know, not like I did it or anything. I didn't change the world, but like just by being in the community and in the conversation, I think it made a difference.
I love that collaborative learning bent to planning. I think that's a great thing to highlight. And I live in Decatur, so thank you. I do love it here. Okay, so you know, one of the reasons that we heard from a lot of the participants is that they are interested in professional development and, you know, kind of finding their niche in the planning field and, you know, using this program to help them find their way in that. And so I'm curious if y'all might each talk about what you think about how diversified planners should be. You know, is there an advantage to being very specialized in some certain part of planning versus being a general planner, like, and just the course of your career, kind of the different types of planning that you've done and how you've, you know, come to that. And because everyone's career path is a little different. And so we'd love to hear a little bit about each of yours. So, and Liz, I see you nodding, so maybe you can go first.
Well, sure, I'll jump in. I think you can play it either way. I think that's one of the things I just love about planning. You can kind of write your own ticket to a sense because the skills are so transferable. So to that point, I've been somebody who hasn't, I get bored is the truth. I've been a community engagement person. That's kind of, if I have like a specialization, that's been it. But it's allowed me to sort of do other things. I've been an environmental planner, a community planner, a transportation planner, an engagement specialist. Now I'm the manager of strategic that planning. You know, I mean, it gives you a chance to apply the skills different places. And I can also see where that falls short is that if you really want to be the expert in something you'll never be that because you're too busy sort of going horizontal as opposed to going vertical and going down deeper. So I think it's like getting to know yourself. I mean, do you enjoy diving deep and like really knowing all the details and all the ins and outs of the methodology or the this or the that in the process, or would you rather be kind of have your hands in a lot of different things?
Corey, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, one thing I would argue is that we all end up kind of specializing in something: transportation, environment, public engagement, zoning, comp planning, whatever that is. But I think that one thing that is unique to planners versus many other professions is that we have connections to all of these other things, these other disciplines, other professions in our communities. And so we end up knowing a little bit about a lot and being able to point people in a direction when they do have a problem. So that's one thing that I've found, I guess, rewarding about planning in my career is that you often have a lot of connections to lots of different things in your community. Sometimes the connections are not, sometimes some connections are stronger than others, depending on where you're at in your community, where you're at in that planning process in your community. But you're often able to call up nearly anyone in your community, and you would have had a past interaction with them through that planning process.
Love it. Elizabeth?
Sure. I just wanted to add that, at least for my career, a lot of it has unfolded based on either kind of opportunities that have arisen and paths that I was, willing to take. Some of it wasn't really my choice. We had a RIF process around the downfall economic collapse in 2007, 2008 in Hillsborough County. And a lot of my coworkers, were losing their jobs. And I was pretty much told you're going to now do brownfields and historic preservation because we don't have those people here anymore. One was kind of pushed in retirement and the other, went through the RIF process. And I don't regret any of that, learning about those. I prefer doing the comprehensive planning that I'm doing now, but I value that expertise. And then for working in Gaithersburg, I wanted to either have my role as a sustainability coordinator be more, I guess, valued within the organization, or if that wasn't going to happen, make a move in, more aligned with planning. And when that didn't seem like it was going to happen, that's when I looked elsewhere. So I guess my recommendation would be, take the moves as they, as things happen kind of to you, not because of you. And then also look for opportunities and be willing to, leap when you feel like it's going to be a better. And I don't regret moving here and taking this position, because if I had stayed where I was, I would still be doing, what I felt like I really had under my belt. And I wasn't going to, if I stayed there 5 more years, I wasn't going to learn more. And like I think Liz mentioned, I get bored easily. So I just didn't want to do the same thing for, the rest of my career.
Yeah, that continued growth, I think, is something that is really important. So I appreciate you talking about that. Kind of building on that, I guess I would ask each of you if you could think about, giving advice and thinking about skills that planners really need to develop over the course of their careers. What do you think are some of the critical skills for the future that you would advise people to try to get under their belt, or, find opportunities to take place in? I'll just let someone jump in.
I'll start. I'm going to say marketing, especially if you're going to be have a public-facing role or in your community, and then analytics, being able to use software programs that can crunch that big data for you. Those are 2 that I'm definitely seeing the need for.
Liz or Elizabeth?
I was thinking, and I don't think it's really something with the future. I think this has probably always been the case, and probably nothing you haven't heard, but public speaking, I feel like, and it's great that we have that during the course or class upcoming, someone to speak on public speaking. And it's not so much public speaking, I guess it is part of it, but what I'm getting to is the values, like communicating the values of planning, and like our code of ethics. Not a lot of different careers have something that is a code of ethics to how we serve the public, that type of thing. So communicating the values of planning, I think is very important. And that could be in a public speaking role, but it could be a one-on-one meeting. So just being able to take your job and explain it to a non-professional, to where they understand it. And then just having a good work ethic, I think, is another, just always been important.
Love it.
Yeah, I agree with both those. And I think I would almost call it like making the case, like the marketing, the speaking, articulating it, just really being able to make the case for what you're doing and why. And I don't, skills, that throws me a little bit, because some of my skills have gotten, there's always the people who are right out of school who have the like gee whiz bang leading edge on the sharpest tools in the box. But what I do think is the kind of thing in today's world where there's so much uncertainty and change and it's all happening really fast. I think being sort of on the edge of your, like, how do you put it? There's a phrase, but like not being caught flat-footed, where you're living in yesterday when you really should be. I see planners as kind of the vanguard of the trends, like being on the front edge, being able to help people move into the future successfully. So being strategic, I guess, is a good word for it.
I love that. I mean, we are, right? We're supposed to have the vision for the next 20, 30, 40 years. So I think that's a great point to make. So kind of pivoting from skills to certifications, you know, we hear a lot, should I get my AICP? You know, is it worth it to get the CNU certification? Are there others? What do you all think about those? Are those important and something that you would encourage emerging planners to pursue?
I'll jump in and just say, you know, I think when you invest as much time in a educational process to become a planner, that getting the AICP is kind of a no-brainer to put the cherry on top. You know, now if that test is daunting because you kind of came into planning through a side door, I don't think it's going to hurt you not having it. Either way, I think. The other credentialing, I mean, the more letters you have after your name, the better it looks on your LinkedIn page and your, you know, when you're, but you have to kind of weigh the pros and cons, because I know the AICP every year, the check to write for that APA membership is a lot more because you're getting your AICP too. Anyway, just rambling thoughts, but there you have my thoughts.
I would kind of add to that and say, gosh, I have it up. No, it fell off my wall. Sorry, I got to put it back up. But I think I got it in 2002. It was a long time ago, and I know the test is changing, is about to change again. But I felt like the process is pretty intense, but I feel like it was really valuable, the process of training and practicing for the test. And then I've always valued having that certification. I don't have the CNU. I couldn't really speak to whether that's incredibly valuable or not. But I do feel like besides that, doing things like what we have here with Leadership Lounge, and I think Corey, you participated in other South Georgia leads and things like that you can speak to. But I think just collaborating with folks from other professions as well can be really valuable.
Great point.
I would agree with what everybody has said so far. Trying to, if you don't have it, really, and are not interested in taking the exam or any of the exams, I suppose, for any of the various letters after your name, we'll call it that, you know, really trying to make sure that you market yourself, that you are knowledgeable in all those areas. Because usually just because you take the ICP test and go into spend years in, just say, transportation planning does not make you an expert in zoning by any means. So, well, some people might think that's what that means. So I think it's good. It's a personal choice. But one thing there that Elizabeth said is, if you have the opportunity to take advantage of other leadership programs, whether they're in your company, whether they're in your community, take advantage of those, because you meet people, you learn things, and to become a better person.
That's great. So we have a you know, a wide range of geographies represented on this year's program, as well as people who are in the public and the private sector, and some with large agencies and smaller jurisdictions. And so I'm curious if you could just talk a little bit about, you know, to you personally, and Elizabeth, we've heard a little bit about, you know, from you about this, about, you know, how you were forced to make a move, but just how you've made those decisions over the course of your career, and anything that you felt would be helpful to pass on, you know, as people may be deciding, you know, do I want to jump from the private industry into the public, or vice versa, or go from a large agency to a small. Would love to hear just a little bit of a story from you if you have one.
One thing I would say, if you're presented with the opportunity to talk about a career move, that doesn't mean that it's going to happen. Take advantage of it. Yeah, it doesn't hurt to talk. And I would imagine that a lot of times your supervisors, well, you might think that they'd be upset that you're leaving or something like that. They often will probably feel that that's good. This person is moving on to better themselves. And they're often pleased with that, even if they have to fill a void in their organization. I would encourage everyone to take advantage of those opportunities, just to talk.
Yeah, when you have, whoops, Elizabeth, why don't you, did you want to go?
You can go, it's fine.
Well, I can't, I'm having trouble getting my thoughts.
Okay, I'll start then. I was trying to remember, we had a planning director, the entire department in Hillsborough County, Bruce McClendon, and he's since passed. Y'all might have heard of him before. He wrote a book on customer service and planning, and he was kind of short-lived at Hillsborough County, went to Los Angeles County, I believe, afterwards. But while he was there, he really kind of coached us as the younger staff on taking opportunities elsewhere, and that kind of just always stuck with me. During that economic downturn, the director at the time pretty much sat everyone down and said, I don't know who's going to get riffed or who's going to leave, but y'all should just start applying to jobs, So I really took that. Like, I don't think I ever probably would have lost my job. I think I had enough, years in that I wasn't going to be one of the ones to leave, but I just, thought, well, let me listen to what this man has to say. And he's got more years of experience than me, and it worked out well in, moving me towards the position I have now. So I don't think, moving around every 2 years is a great idea, but it might work for some people. For me, I feel like, this being my third place to work, it's not like I've worked, I could, more places would have been fine, but I'm happy with this is my third major, place of work in planning. But moving around to getting more experience in different roles within the same organization.
I've just done a lot of different things. I started an engineering firm in New York City, and while there, was introduced to the idea of women-owned businesses and minority business programs, and I was infatuated with that idea. I came down, knew I wanted to be a planner, came down to Georgia Tech, and I knew I wanted to be in environmental and transportation kind of things. Then the economy crashed. You do what you have to do. I became I was an environmental planner. I did solid waste management plan. I did the one for South Georgia Regional Planning Commission, which is just too funny, right? You hang around long enough, you've been through like 4 cycles of plans. But anyway, and then ARC had an opening for a job. It was like there was a new law, ICE-T. It was going to change public involvement. I'd always had an interest in that. I threw my name in the hat, and I got that job, which was great. I worked at ARC for a few years, and I found myself beaten down by all the, out in the public all the time was controversial studies. And, I know some of my colleagues on in this meeting can attest, you can get really beaten down. So an opportunity came to start my own business, which was my husband had gotten laid off, and he was an engineer and did similar things. And so we did, there you go, Sycamore was born. And I did that for 12 years, and it was wonderful. And it was a great gig. And I remember saying, I think I need to step down or I'm going to fall down, because I worked all the time, day, night, weekends, all the time. So I was able to sort of leave there gracefully. I went to Cambridge Systematics, a national consulting firm, had a great career with them, a lot of traveling, and again, consulting, right? It's very rigorous. And people need to know that it asks more of you than a public sector job in many ways. I mean, there's pros and cons to it all. But anyway, I have been able to circle back and wind up at the Atlanta Regional Commission. So I guess I would say just to be really thoughtful about it all, you know, I wouldn't jump into anything because the money may sound really good in consulting. And, you know, that happens particularly in certain areas like transportation, but it's a lifestyle decision. And, you know, it's worth just being strategic and thinking about things. And I have to just finish by saying, you know, I keep hearing the word opportunity in this session as we're all talking. And I love that word because the trait of being opportunistic is like a really good one. Opportunistic and thoughtful is like a winning combo. Thanks.
Thank you. I love that. I was thinking kind of similarly that one thread that I've heard from all three of you today is just to be very open to what comes your way and to put yourself into the position to be open to those opportunities and to be available. So I think that is all really strong advice. So, you know, we have about 15 minutes left, and I wanted to pause and see if anyone from the mentoring group had any questions they wanted to ask of our esteemed panel. Well, hearing none, you know, I think I'll close with just one more question. And this is kind of the elephant in the room, right? Like, will this pandemic ever end? As it does, how do we, as planners, how can we really work within the pandemic? And I'd like to hear your thoughts approaching this from how the workforce is responding, right? So all of us have been now working at home in some form or fashion, at least for a little bit, probably. I see many of you back in the office, and I see many of you just still at your house too. And so I'm curious, you know, with the flex work that's happening so much, and the way that planners insert themselves into how places grow, and you know, if we think about transportation planning and land use planning, I mean, you can come at this from a myriad of directions, right? So I'm just curious, you know, how do you all think planners can assist as the workforce tries to respond to the pandemic and then what we think we'll see post-pandemic? Do you have a crystal ball? Can you tell us? Anyone want to jump in? Liz?
I do know our, you know, ARC has been a source, you know, people have turned to ARC for what to do. And in that regard, we've been our folks in mobility services have been out. I think with cities, counties, everybody's been reaching out about travel demand management and telework and coming up with a plan. And so, you know, there's just been a lot of resources kind of thrown in that direction of like, how do we, and it's been more just the nuts and bolts of it, right? Like, how do you manage people, and what kind of software platforms do you use, that sort of stuff. But there's that piece. And then just from the standpoint of what this will do to how we plan for transportation, for example, are people going to still be working at home? Do we need this? I mean, just all these moving parts. I will also just add one. I don't have any big wisdom in this at all. I just like, you know, just little threads and fragments. But the initiative I've been working on is about engaging communities. And what does that look like in the future? And that's a fascinating sort of lens to look at the whole picture, because just the whole what is a community when you're all sitting at home, right? So, you know, communities are taking completely different forms, and then there's still geographic communities. And so I'm really not sure. I mean, I'm interested to hear what other people think.
So from my perspective, I've been working more on this from the hazard mitigation standpoint. So we have the 2 hazard mitigation plans we've worked on this past year that have incorporated public health emergency into the hazard mitigation plan. And I just pulled one up to kind of look at some of the objectives and goals for those. But I think other than, you know, the PPE and getting things like immunization, education, and working towards making knowledgeable the prevention efforts and things like that, and identifying vulnerable populations for the future. Hopefully this won't be again in our lifetimes, but, you know, for planning purposes, to work on it, come at it from that side of things. I would think Corey could probably better speak to the transportation side of things, though.
Well, one thing I would say is, I guess it's kind of in our job titles. You know, we're planning is planning for the future. And while the pandemic, no one saw that coming. Our worlds, I don't think, have changed all that much. We still are looking at what we want our built environments to be. I think that at least here in the interim, our you know, we've all become comfortable working from home, but does that mean that as you start seeing houses built, that they're all going to have a separate office built? You know, because we do need our dining room tables back and things like that. I don't know. I'm not that's not in my crystal ball. But yes, our workforce is changing. How we work is changing. In a lot of respects, I think that we were already going in that direction anyhow. It maybe has sped it along a little bit. So I think going back to the work that we do, going back to our plans, making sure that our elected officials look at that. If they do need to be modified because of current circumstances, that's no different than any other planning process that we've gone through. Things happen. This has been a global scale, but things happen on local scales as well that change the direction of a community. And that's what we're here to do as planners, is to look into the future and try to build our communities to be the best that they can. So I think it's going back to the core root of what we're doing. And our plans are there to do exactly that. So.
I love that. We're here to kind of lay that foundation and look to the future. So I think that's a great way to end it, unless one of the 3 of you would like to say any parting words. Liz, go ahead.
Just one word, curious. Let's just bring curiosity to it all. I don't know what else we can do, right? I mean, because nobody has a crystal ball. But we have good skills,
right?
Planners have good skills to deal with it if anybody does.
Good. Well, I would just like to say thank you to the 3 of you for sharing your thoughts with us. I thought that was really fantastic and appreciate the thoughtfulness that you put into it. I also would like to say thank you to the committee, to Regan and Allison and Whitney. Appreciate you all being here and the work that you've done to get us organized for this year. And finally, thank you to all of the participants. I'm so looking forward to spending more time with you. Like I mentioned, please keep a lookout for information to come on the February meeting, as well as the CPI assessment from Suzanne. And reach out to me should you have any questions at all. And we will see you again in February. Bye, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Caroline. Thanks,
Thank
Caroline.
you.
Have a nice weekend.
Thanks, everyone.
You
Caroline,
too.
thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a
Bye.
good weekend.
Thank you.